Getting stripped. What happens when you defy the shadow prison? On April 18th, 2025, I was taking a nap in my cell. It was about 7:30 p.m. when someone came knocking on the door. "Is Daniel in there? He has a visit." I was not expecting a visit, so I thought it was another inmate just messing with me. About 10 minutes later, shadow prison staff was demanding that we open the door immediately, which we did. The shadow prison security guard said, "You have a visit." So I got ready and went down to the visiting room. But I did not have a visit. Instead, I had to pick up photos from the visiting department. I then walked back to the unit. Upon entering the unit, shadow prison staff surrounded me and asked, "Where were you when we first came to the door?" I told them that I was taking a nap, and that if they would have used the intercom system, I would have known it was them. They then went up to talk to my cellmate. When they walked away from the cell door, they called the squad. We were surrounded by half a dozen SWAT team-like shadow prison security guards and ushered into a vacant room to be questioned. "Your cell smells like marijuana." The guard said, "We are bringing you to segregation where you're going to get naked." "Over a smell?" I said, "It's sage. My cellmate just got back from native ceremony. He smokes tobacco and smudges, and there is sage smoldering on the lamp. That is what you're smelling. It's sage." "We don't care," they said. "You're getting naked." I urged them to calm down and told them that if they searched the room, they would not find any drugs. I also agreed to being pat-searched, but they insisted that I strip for them. I told them that if they find drugs, I would comply with a strip search. At this point, a shadow prison security guard approached me from behind and applied handcuffs around my wrists. Then he and one other guard stood on either side of me and grabbed me by the shoulders. As they pushed me forward, 2 other guards grabbed my feet, making me horizontal to the black tarp that had been laid beneath me. They lowered me down to the tarp, grabbed the edges, and carried me down the stairs. I winced as they carried me, afraid they may drop me, slamming my face into the steel staircase. At one point, one of the guards yelled out, "Stop. I'm falling." Fortunately, he gained his footing, and I made it to the bottom of the staircase without injury. They then brought me back to segregation, into a cell. They rolled me off of the tarp and left the room. I laid on my stomach for at least 20 minutes with my hands cuffed behind my back. When they came back, they told me to strip naked. I did not respond. So, at least 6 men and 2 women came into the room. They pulled my shoes and socks off. Then they unbuttoned my pants. I began to cry. Before they could pull my pants down, I contorted my cuffed hand to reach into my pocket to remove the ring my mother gave me, as the guards had missed it when they emptied my pockets. The ring had the Lord's Prayer engraved into it. It reminded me of when my mom taught me the prayer as a 5-year-old boy. I handed the ring to the closest hand and said out loud, "My mother gave me that ring, and the photos in my pocket are of me and her. Don't lose them." These were the only words I had spoken during the entire ordeal. At this point, the guards pulled my pants off and then yanked my boxers off aggressively. Then I heard the cutting of scissors, and my heart began to race. The tears began to well again, and I became petrified. Did I make a mistake? I thought, what if they slip and hurt me? They began at the left cuff of my Puma jacket and cut all the way to the collar. Then they did the other side and removed my t-shirt and jacket. At this point, I am fully naked with my face planted to the cold concrete. They rolled me to one side and then the other to scan my naked body. When they were done, they uncuffed me and left the room. I put on the segregation scrubs they left behind. The next day, I agreed to take a urinalysis. The results were negative. I had no drugs in my system, and no drugs were found in my cell. Nonetheless, my cellmate and I were left in segregation for almost 3 days. When we came out, we were told that we would be required to get naked every other week for the next 3 months. Our in-person visits would be revoked. We would have to do assignments about our addiction. We would be expected to act as a drug informants for shadow prison staff. And during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, We would have to wait for everyone else in the facility to eat before we could.